grinning. La 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 la. They tried to slap that look right off my face, but I'm still grinning. And the money ain't run out yet, so I do believe I'm winning. For all the mess I was, am and will be continuing, and the fun is only beginning. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE SmackDown every Friday night after the bell. My name's John Zindel. I'm joined by Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
John, it's our first SmackDown after the Royal Rumble, and I smell a lead. Without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from SmackDown for February 2nd, 2024?
Dom, we don't ever bury the lead. And the lead for tonight is The Rock returns to SmackDown. And we see The Rock in a promo or we see Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns in like a promo segment to end the show, and The Rock shows up. And no words are spoken, but the crowd goes absolutely crazy for The Rock. And we get a fade to black here. Dom, what did you think about this 25-minute main event promo segment?
I thought it was well done. I mean, Roman basically came out. He comes out first with Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis already in the ring. And Roman comes down. It's Paul Heyman. It's Jimmy Uso. It's Solo Sikoa. And Roman Reigns is talking up his belt and really running down the World Heavyweight Championship that Seth Rollins currently holds. He's calling it the loser's bracket. And that's clearly just the number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So he's running down the belt, which is what we were concerned about when they first made that belt. And, Roman's basically making the case that Cody should come out and challenge for Roman's belt, not that other belt. And it's a good argument. Seth Rollins apparently made a great argument in a segment similar to this on Monday Night Raw 4 days earlier. So then, Cody's music hits and he walks down. And then Cody does something that winds up not only elevating the belt that Roman has, because, Roman's the heel. He's supposed to crap all over Seth Rollins' belt.
Right.
But Cody's not supposed to do that. And so Cody does a good job of elevating each guy and each championship that they hold. But then Cody does something really interesting. He says, to the effect of Roman's not only the title holder, but he thinks everything here is his. This ring, those cameras, these ring posts, the canvas, all these fans in attendance. And so Cody says, I want to take all of that away from you as well. And then he says, I've been speaking with some counsel too, as a Paul Heyman dig there. Mm-hmm. And when he says that, I'm thinking, it's The Rock. It has to be. It absolutely has to be The Rock, because otherwise this is totally overselling.
Yeah. Who else?
And sure enough, right? It would have been totally overselling. And sure enough, The Rock's music hits, and Rock comes down. Cody leaves the ring because now apparently it's not about the belt anymore. It's about the tribal chief. It's about the head of the table. And like you said, The Rock doesn't walk down with a mic. He doesn't take a mic when he gets into the ring. Roman seemingly doesn't have a mic anymore either, especially since Cody asked that Paul and Jimmy and Solo leave the ring so it could just be the 2 of them in the ring, and they obliged. So when Cody leaves, it's Roman in the ring by himself, and it's The Rock in the ring. And for 2-3 minutes, they have this very slow-moving stare down.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was pretty good TV. It wasn't a wrestling match. It wasn't even a quasi-wrestling match where there was just a big schmoz at the end. There was no physicality. But I thought it was an interesting and an interest holding final segment. At what point did you know it's got to be The Rock?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I loved Roman Reigns' talking segment when he was
Yeah.
taking down Seth Rollins.
Mhm.
He says at one point, Seth Rollins, and then he says, "No pop." Like the crowd doesn't pop it up. He said, "Oh, no pop." And it's like, wow. I mean, talk about burying him, right?
Yeah.
He's like completely trashing Seth Rollins, and we talked about how it felt like a participation trophy, and it doesn't feel anything like a real belt any more so now. Ever since CM Punk and Roman Reigns have both like just eviscerated Seth Rollins in the mic to a point where it was like just completely buried him.
Mhm.
I don't know how you come back from him saying his name, the crowd not popping, and then he just says no pop. Like, yeah. So I thought that was amazing. And maybe I'll put the graphic up and we can have the conversation. This is
Sure.
from Sports Kita. Is that what they're called?
Sports Kita. Yeah, I see some of their content floating around. They do images. I believe they have a Twitter X account as well.
Mhm.
They've already got their mock up ready. They know what they want. They must have known this was coming.
Yeah. So
Maybe they've had this already made, and they're like, whenever they announce it, we've got it ready. I saw this floating around the interwebbies. Sports Kita is tagged there right in the middle under the WrestleMania 40 logo there. So great job by them having this thing made and having it ready. I wonder what the WWE will put out for this. Now, Roman has his belt in this picture. There was no mention tonight that the belt will be on the line between The Rock and Roman. So I wonder if they're just fighting for the tribal chief and the head of table and the family honor, and the belt is going to be something separate. If that's the case, how interested are you in this? If it's just an Hawaii family storyline and not anything to do with the Universal Championship, what say you
all
on that?
right.
How y'all
Good.
doing? The shooter is back.
Yeah, baby.
Shooter, what do you think of this? What do you think? And anybody else who's in the live stream right now, watching us on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, on Twitter, you know, give us what you want. One of the biggest match, same as Cena versus Rock there from Curvin Abreu. Thank you. What do you guys think of this match potentially not having the title involved and simply being about head of the table, tribal chief storyline stuff, just a big old family hierarchy power play here? Is it still interesting to you without a belt? Because they have not announced that it's a title match. And while our chatters mull it over and see if they want to throw in something to us, what do you say there, John? What do you think?
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining, boys, girls, whomever you may be out there. But thanks so much for coming back. And I gotta say, ultimately, I do like the idea of, like Curvin is saying here, like we saw the match last year between Cody and Roman Reigns. So
Mhm.
The Rock versus Roman Reigns, I think I'd rather see that. But I don't know. I think it has to be for the belt, Dom. But
I do.
I
Okay.
yeah, I really think Roman has to drop it at WrestleMania. So I think he has to
Wow.
drop it to either Cody Rhodes or The Rock. And they built some intrigue tonight in the lead or the main event, because I thought it was a foregone conclusion that Cody would go ahead and challenge Roman Reigns.
Mhm.
Now, I
Well,
don't.
you say Roman has to drop the belt at WrestleMania.
Mhm.
What if, and this is a huge what if, because I've heard this floated out there, but I don't know if Roman can actually handle this with his physical condition. But I heard people say that he's going to put the belt up on night one, and then The Rock will be night two.
Right.
That's a total rumor. It doesn't make any sense to me. because you're almost making Roman look like an underdog in that kind of situation. Um, I'll give you my take on it. I am fine with Roman versus Rock being the only Roman Reigns match at WrestleMania. I'm fine with it not having the title belt involved.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey.
fine with them just having the match for tribal chief, head of the family. I think it might be interesting to see both Usos come back. They may bring back, who knows, Rikishi.
Oh
Who
yeah.
knows who they may bring in this if it's just a big old family tribal chief head of the table affair. And I don't think it needs the belt. Part of me thinks it's a terrible idea to have the belt in the mix because I don't want The Rock winning the belt.
You mean
He doesn't wrestle. I mean, if you're ticked off at Roman Reigns having a limited schedule, you want The Rock to have this belt?
Yes.
And I don't mean you personally, John. I'm just talking to anybody. Like you want this belt to go on somebody who's maybe not even a part-timer?
Right. Hey man, I'll tell you what, that's the lead going into
But to put a bow on the lead, belt aside, whatever else they do aside, was this the right time to pull the trigger on Rock Roman and to put it in people's heads that this match is probably happening at WrestleMania?
oh, for sure. And also I think they did a good job with the main event, just kind of teasing along. You don't really know yet, because if you knew Cody Rhodes was definitely going to face Roman Reigns, you're going to have like a whole lot of, like, I don't know how you're going to plug in all these, what you're going to do for the storyline, because it was already losing steam last year.
Yes.
Going into WrestleMania. So you're going to hold like a couple months. It's April, early April. And I mean, it's 2 months away. So you got 16 TV shows of, basically talking about, oh, hey, like, Cody Rhodes, like, oh, I'll get you, Roman. My daddy, whatever his gimmick is. But yeah, so ultimately, I think it's pretty cool that they added some intrigue here.
Okay.
I want The Rock to beat Roman Reigns for the title. And
you want them to beat him for the title. Okay.
Here's the thing. I like your idea with Roman Reigns and Rock just facing and having like this family, family confrontation. But you gotta have someone have the belt be on display in WrestleMania, right? Like the belt has to be somebody has to. You can't have that belt, the big belt, and somebody not defend it.
Yeah, I hear that, but on the other hand, like, isn't The Rock better than a belt?
Yeah, I mean, right.
Who's not going to watch this match because the belt isn't involved? Oh, there's another question: is would you put Rock Roman on the pay-per-view coming up before it? That's a neat idea because Roman did not defend the belt at he did defend the belt at Royal Rumble, but it was in a fatal four-way, a weird thing there. So
yeah.
Now the only problem is, like you're saying there, Curvin, it's a start time in Australia. Your US crowd isn't going to watch it live.
No way.
In fact, that's gonna be an interesting thing for Don't Bury the Lead, because 5 a.m. on a Saturday. That's a tough one for us.
We don't want to just stay up and then watch it. I mean,
yeah,
even if you do watch it super early in the morning and you get after it, like, you'd have to get up super early in the East Coast, let alone the West Coast. You have to get up even earlier,
Yeah,
so
2 a.m. You might as well stay up Friday night.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with Perth. I mean, we talked about watching it, Dom, and just watching the replay.
Sure.
And that's how we're going to watch it. But I don't think you can have the biggest matchup between The Rock and Roman Reigns, like, in recent memory in Perth. But maybe you could.
Oh, if it was a market that they really needed to make a splash in, but if they did that, I think a lot of people would yell and scream at them. How could you not do this at WrestleMania?
Yes, Curvin. It will be interesting to see where they go, but hey, it's got our intrigue, and that is the lead. And we're going to talk about the rest of the show here.
Mm-hmm. And if I remember, I've already got something for the Italian goodbye, but whatever.
So that's the lead. We saw the main event, and we're going to talk about the rest of SmackDown. So, Dom, what did you think of the rest of SmackDown?
The rest of SmackDown was sort of, we got a condensed SmackDown because they wanted this big thing to be there at the end. So we still got 4 matches. We still got some other non-match segments. We saw Jade Cargill. We saw Braun Breaker. We saw Logan Paul, even though he didn't wrestle. So we saw a lot of big things. We saw 4 decent matches. We also saw something that was not a match. And yeah, heck, if they're going to make the lead be something that's not a match, I'm going to say that the follow should start with something else that's not a match. How about Bailey? There was Braun Breaker. He was back there as well.
Sorry.
How about Bailey? Challenging Io Sky for the WrestleMania after Io wins the Women's Royal Rumble.
They finally pulled the trigger after months and months of teasing the breakup. So I think they did a good job. I don't think it was random, but they just kind of got to it tonight. Bailey comes out in all white, which is like, yeah, face turn, right? All white. You know, it's like, you know, that's usually typically the sign. There's rarely a heel that wears all white, head to toe. So
that is rare.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned they've been teasing it for a while, months and months, that there's, you know, Bailey's she's the leader. It was her idea, but she just doesn't fit in with the others. Did they do a good job in the segment earlier in the first hour? Because this talking segment in the ring was started almost right at 9 o'clock. This was the changeover of the hours here on SmackDown. East Coast here, we started 8. Earlier in the show, Io Sky, Asuka, and Kairi Sane are in the locker room, and they seem to be mocking Bailey. And then they leave, and Bailey appears at a side door of the locker room. And she's got this look on her face like she's hurt. That was the first clue that, maybe something's going on here. Did you see that? Was it a good lead-in for what happened in the big in-ring promo segment? And did they give you a good enough payoff with Bailey finally figuring out what was going on behind her back?
I thought it was a good promo, and the crowd was pretty captivated. We had some chants earlier in the night. So and Bailey didn't get what chance. They gave her a chance to talk, because I think things being predictable like that, that's not a bad thing, right? Like, it's predictable. She was going to have some sort of breakup. They teased it like crazy, and now it's happening. And you know, once Bailey won Royal Rumble, you're like, okay, she's probably going to go after Io's belt, and I'm looking forward to it. And there's a lot of animosity and storyline they can have there. So we're actually really looking forward to that one. I think it's built up perfectly, and you have 2 great workers. So yeah.
And at this point, you know, Bailey's got no friends, right?
Right.
She's screwed over everybody else in the locker room. Nobody likes Bailey. Is anyone going to be on Bailey's side? Is it's going to be, you know, maybe like a 4-on-1 or a 3-on-1?
Her best friend is going to premiere in AEW in the coming days, right? Sasha Banks,
Mercedes Moné. Yeah. See, that was the thing I was thinking about. It's like, what if Sasha Banks is still unsigned? Mercedes Moné is still unsigned.
I feel like they probably would have pulled the trigger on and had her Royal Rumble, but it was not meant to be. So
I like this. I like how they did it, where Bailey said something in Japanese to them, and they all like take like, oh, she understands a little of what we're saying. So I think Bailey did this well. Yeah, she was talking about Rhea Ripley. WWE did a good job of showing Rhea Ripley in her wrestling gear with the belt backstage looking at the big monitor. And then Bailey's talking about that. And then she says, because like Asuka and Io and Kairi are laughing in the ring behind her back on the hard cam. Bailey turns around and they straighten up all around like, oh no, that the teacher's looking at us. Right? From your school days, if you went to one of those big old schools in the classroom there, you and your friends are joking around, and while the teacher's back is turned, suddenly the teacher turns around and everybody's got to straighten up and wipe that smirk off their face.
Right.
They're doing that same thing. They're doing that same thing in the ring, and it's a slow burn, but I think Bailey did it well. And then they do the beatdown of her as she's talking directly to Io, like, okay, the other two are kind of new, but Io, how could you do this to me? And that's when Asuka and Kairi attack. Eventually, Bailey is down on the mat near the corner where one of the ring steps are. She reaches down behind the ring steps, pulls up a pipe, and then surprises Asuka and Kairi with it. And then she's got that big standoff with just Io. Io's got the belt up, ready to strike, and Bailey's got the pipe, and they neither one is going to strike the other, and they just stare. And then Io just backs out of the ring with Asuka and Kairi, and they make their way back up. So I think a good segment, and this has got to be, in a sense, a little anxious in a good way, maybe for Io Sky.
Yeah.
Like, she's now carrying what's left of the Damage Control faction. She's not in Bailey's shadow anymore. Now she's got the belt, and she's the champ, and Bailey's not there to do any of her dirty work for her.
Right.
So I think this was a good so it's the first SmackDown after Royal Rumble. This is what's on everybody's mind. The Royal Rumble winners picking their opponents for WrestleMania. So, I don't imagine that we'd ever start a show talking about two non-match segments at the beginning, but like this was probably the show to do it.
Yeah.
Anything else about Bailey picking Io Sky rather than Rhea Ripley, other than the fact that apparently they made Rhea Ripley travel to the SmackDown taping or the live show and be all ready in her gear just to stand there for a few seconds for a couple of cutaways.
I hope she did that remotely.
All right.
I hope they at least had her in some other random warehouse building locker room area and make her go all the way out there. No, I think that's good. And maybe we can go to a match and
of course.
And
what do you like?
I'd say
what's the match of the night?
Woof. So I don't know about the match of the night. Let's maybe go with probably the most interesting one is Michin versus Tiffany.
Okay.
So Tiffany is a person from NXT who I do not know, who appears to be called up and in this role. And I'd say this is probably the most noteworthy match of the night.
Okay.
Because it was kind of good and kind of a wreck at the same time. So Tiffany goes over Michin. It's about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 12 minutes long, roughly around that ballpark. Dom, what did you think about this match tonight?
Tiffany Stratton was in the Women's Royal Rumble, and I think we remarked about her that she put on a real good showing of herself for being an NXT person. John, you must have really liked this match. You thought it went 10, 15 minutes, maybe around 12. It was 8.
8. Okay. Yeah.
So you like this match.
Right.
and this was to make Tiffany Stratton sort of look good in her call-up. The announcers were even talking it up. New announce team Wade Barrett is back on SmackDown tonight. And it's a 2-man booth. I forget who the other one was, but the 3-man booth is gone. And the 2 guys who were left when Michael Cole went to Raw, one of them is also gone. So back to Wade Barrett, but Wade Barrett's talking up Tiffany Stratton. She looks like she can really wrestle in there. Something she does like that cartwheel off the ropes into the Alabama pickup in the Alabama Slam.
Yeah.
mean, that's an athletic move. I don't know about the cartwheeling, but it's just being able to get that quickly, one motion into an Alabama slam for a 2 count there on Michin. That was neat. The stuff that was kind of looked like a mess. The pinning combination winds up being Tiffany Stratton's got Michin up on her shoulders for the fireman's carry, does that roll through slam, and then it's supposed to plant Michin exactly where she needs it for that moonsault. She does the prettiest moonsault ever, as they called it.
Mhm.
And Tiffany Stratton, her first time on the big show, up to the top turnbuckle, hits the moonsault and almost completely misses it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they showed the replay. I mean, she's
Yeah.
very close to whiffing.
Like totally whiffing. Like her arms extended, barely got Michin.
Hmm. They mentioned she was a gymnast, and you could see
Okay.
she definitely has that athletic ability. And I just wrote her first match. She's nerves. She's freaking out there. There was
Little nerves.
in the very beginning of the match. There was a point where she was laying on her back and just kicked at Michin,
Mm-hmm.
and like Michin didn't do anything, and then they were both just standing there confused, and then Michin just did like a side body slam after that, and then they got to whatever spot she was trying. But I thought Michin looked awesome, and I thought like all the stuff Michin was doing was really good. And this Tiffany person, I think she's just nervous and I just wrote botch fest. She was all over the place. I think like if you went and watched the replays, like the stuff she was doing too was real wonky. Like she did a move where like you kind of have to hit your head, and then like I don't know what it was specifically, but like she just went and smashed her head on the ground to kind of get to it, kind of like a rolling like Samoan drop. But she hit her head so hard. I was like, oh my God, it looks horrible. Like she spiked her own head on the ground so hard.
Was that the finishing sequence? Because I
Yeah.
saw that too. I was like, she did not turn a lot on that.
No, she didn't get her over, and she just went head first, but then she got herself over. It just looked real nasty.
She apparently didn't hurt herself because she springs right up and climbs the corner ropes.
The last sequence was all messed up because she went head first, and then she botched the moonsault, and she botched in the beginning, laying on her back and kicking. That was like, I was like, how did you guys not know the first move right away? How did you not like not disconnect there? But I mean, there were other parts of it where you could see her athleticism, and I think there's a huge pass when you're a person and you're coming from NXT and you're wrestling then on SmackDown on real TV. And NXT, I mean, maybe this is kind of part of it, but like NXT isn't like the indies necessarily. Like they're not grinding as much down there. Like maybe she got called up too soon. Like some people that come from the indies, they are so ready to go, and they've been wrestling in the indies for several years, and they're so hungry and want it. Whereas she maybe like doesn't necessarily know all the stuff just yet. Maybe she's memorizing the moves and just doing the memorized moves, you know.
I thought her athleticism, she seems to belong. Personality-wise, she seems to belong. They put her in a neat backstage segment also, in which she wound up slapping Michin while some others were around there as well. And it was Shotzi and Bianca Belair as well. And that's how this match got made. So she seems to have a lot of those tools. Yeah, maybe it's just, working on your timing, being in the big arena where you can actually hear a huge crowd. Because you're right about that closing sequence. She was supposed to forward roll out of the fireman's carry, slam her opponent, and then have the slam occur so that she doesn't have to move her opponent at all and just hit the moonsault. Well, she doesn't quite hit the forward roll on the slam. She misjudged where to place Michin on the slam.
Mm-hmm.
And then so when she hits the moonsault, she almost misses the moonsault entirely. So you could see all the athletic ability is there, but just the finer points of timing.
Oh, yeah.
Just sure. the finer points of timing. And you mentioned the indie people. What was that just awful SmackDown we watched almost a year ago where we said the only person who was maybe helped by this entire SmackDown was this poor indie person they probably dragged out of the Connecticut Indies to lose to Lacey Evans.
I literally thought of that girl tonight because I was thinking about how Tiffany.
How well she did. It's just a jobber.
I was like, that jobber was awesome.
Yeah.
And just to think like that a person like Tiffany is getting the shot and doesn't look like she's so ready to go, but that jobber was great. I don't know where she's at. I don't know what she's doing. I mean, she should show that to most any NWA, New Japan, whoever, and she should get signed, right?
Yes, I believe it was Carmen Harris.
You got it. Yeah, it was Carmen something or other.
Carmen Harris, and they misspelled Harris differently because they didn't want to give her any merch money. Her name probably was Carmen Harris. They probably met 5 minutes before the bell.
Right.
And, you got some gear. Good, get out there.
Good. Here's your shot.
So Tiffany Stratton, I think she's got a bright future. You mentioned her being a gymnast. She seems tall and bulky for a gymnast. Gymnasts are usually tiny people for all that flipping. Tiffany Stratton looks like she was about the same size as Meechin in there. And Meechin's one of those women who, she doesn't look like she's going to break in half if she does something.
Right.
Like I'm with you on Meechin. I'm impressed by Meechin in the ring. And all things considered, was this a good person to put Tiffany Stratton in there in the ring with for her first match? You don't want to put her in there with a huge name yet. This is her first match, but you don't want to put her in there with somebody who's not going to have that veteran presence and won't know what to do.
Yeah, you want someone that's good, and Meechin's definitely good. Yeah. So, that's was my match. Actually, I think it's probably one of my favorite match of the night, and that really is telling of how I felt about the SmackDown. So, if you want, maybe you.
The first match of the evening I thought was pretty good. Is that where you want to go next?
I didn't catch a lot of that, so maybe you could take over as I have, Baby John requesting.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Bring them on. Third man in the booth.
Right.
SmackDown kicks off with Logan Paul in the ring, taking shots at CM Punk and Seth Rollins, where he talks about how, you can't injure Logan Paul, so he doesn't have anything wrong with his triceps. He's not crying about his triceps. He's not crying about his knee. But as John alluded to earlier, this is where someone was getting wadded nearly to death by the crowd there in Birmingham, Alabama. That someone was Logan Paul. He's getting what's constantly. He's just plowing through it. He's neither trying to stop the crowd from doing it, nor acknowledging it like a heel might, like, shut up, stop that. So he wasn't doing either one of those things. Takes a lot of shots at Kevin Owens, who walks out and they verbally spar. And Logan Paul says, Kevin Owens, you're not getting another title shot. And he says, you should worry more about Austin Theory, who you're fighting next. And that's how we get into our opening match of the night with Logan Paul on commentary. Kevin Owens winds up beating Austin Theory in a match that had a little callback to the Royal Rumble title match where Logan Paul did retain over Kevin Owens. In that pay-per-view match, premium live event match, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller interfered with the brass knuckles that Kevin Owens wound up wresting away from Logan Paul, hitting Logan Paul with them, but then getting disqualified for it. Tonight, eventually, Logan Paul gives Austin Theory the brass knuckles after Grayson Waller created a distraction with the ref. But Kevin Owens sees it, gets the brass knuckles away from Austin Theory, knocks out Waller with the brass knuckles, knocks out Theory with the brass knuckles, and then successfully hides it from the ref, who counts 1, 2, 3. This match went about 11 minutes. It wasn't bad. Logan Paul was pretty good on commentary as just joining the booth there. Austin Theory, on one hand, it's unfortunate because they pushed him so almost to the moon early, youngest U.S. champ ever. And now he's kind of stuck as just a good-looking jobber for other guys. But on the other hand, Austin Theory looks like $1 million. He wrestles well, and he still has enough he still has enough of a reputation where, if you beat Austin Theory, it's like, you beat somebody noteworthy. So, Kevin Owens wins this match. Shenanigans, call back to the Royal Rumble. Winds up really aggravating Logan Paul, who later on marches into Nick Aldis's office and starts demanding an opponent because he doesn't want to be known as his part-timer. So we're getting more of Logan Paul and maybe the crybaby routine that he's doing as a heel. But not a bad match. I thought it was a pretty good match, a good opener for SmackDown, a lot of energy. The crowd is behind Kevin Owens. The crowd is against everybody else who was in this match. So it worked well. It was a good opener for the crowd. The crowd, of course, did what Logan Paul to death almost. So Logan Paul maybe needs a little help for that. There was no subtle mastery of the verbal sparring with the crowd that we've seen other people do from Logan Paul yet.
Yeah, I saw him just kind of, like you said, just sort of plow through. He at least tried to keep his cadence with the whats, I guess, but the whats are never a good sign. You're not doing too well if you're getting the whats.
That's the problem, though. The crowd whats because your cadence is so robotic and sounds scripted. Burr, 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 burr. What? Burr, 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 burr. What? Burr, 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 burr. What? Burr, burr, burr. Break up your cadence.
You're
Say a full sentence. Say the next one.
I think they're kind of and I would go ahead and say that I think he's solid on the mic with Logan Paul, but I don't know if I needed him as much as I've seen him the last couple weeks. I feel like I've seen him a lot on the mic. And he was on the show a lot tonight. Like he did the opening promo, and it was like, oh God, Logan Paul promo. And he struggled his way through it, and then they got into an announcement segment. Then he had a backstage segment. It's all over the show, and it's just like, I don't know if you want to. I don't know if he's done at WrestleMania for a while, and they're just trying to get him burn him up as much as they can here, or what the deal is. But I feel like he's getting a little overexposed.
Okay, for a guy who's had one match to be overexposed.
I mean, just the amount of segments he's in.
Sure.
I feel like he's like on the mic constantly. I don't know if I really want him. I'd rather have him just on the announce team or just more of this match. He doesn't need to have these big 10-minute monologues when he can't do them, and they keep making him do them. It feels a little Vincey. It feels like, it feels a little bit like Vince would always do this stuff with the Raws. With no matter what the deal was, no matter what their ability to talk, they would have these long-winded promo segments that just went on way too long. Maybe he gets like
to me because it's almost as if they're still treating Logan Paul as a celebrity.
Right.
Like Vince loved his celebrities. And maybe that was the whole point of the backstage thing where Logan Paul saying, look, they're talking about me like I'm a part-timer. I want to wrestle. Maybe this is where that change happens for him, where we start seeing more of him wrestle. And then if he cuts a promo, it's like, okay, this makes sense because you actually wrestle and might have a match coming up.
Yeah, but like also what's really weird is he's like, they're calling me a part-timer, I want a match. And then it's like, so now he's an honorable champion? All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, and they didn't even really announce him a match. They announced that next week they're going to announce his match. Roman Reigns has not been scheduled yet for the Perth show, Elimination Chamber. So I wonder if in order to get a title match on that card, Rhea Ripley's probably going to have a title match. It's probably going to be her and Nia Jax. And then you wonder who else is going to have a title match in Perth. Maybe Logan Paul goes to Perth, and being a media star like he is, you see if a guy who's a YouTube star plus your hometown hero in Rhea Ripley Australia can sort of carry that show from a title belt standpoint, and then just let the natural gimmick of Elimination Chamber carry the rest of the show. So I wonder if Logan Paul winds up doing 3 premium live events in a row. Defends the belt at Royal Rumble. Maybe he has a title defense in Perth at Elimination Chamber, and then gets to WrestleMania, where really all the belts have to be up at WrestleMania. It's a 2-night affair. There's no excuse not to have a title defended. So maybe Logan Paul will be the workhorse amongst the title holders in WWE and work, successive premium live events in title matches. If so, that will go a long way to establishing him as a real full-time member of the roster and not a part-time guy. So I'm interested in that announcement next week, if it's for a SmackDown match or if it's for something at Elimination Chamber. I think maybe that makes Logan Paul. Maybe that's how he gets to be a made man in the WWE universe. Who knows?
Well, Dom, we talked about the opener. We talked about the Mishin versus Tiffany match. Where do you want to head to next?
You love Fatal 4-Ways, don't you?
My favorite.
And how about a Fatal 4-Way with a tag element thrown in there with tag teams? And then how about we do it so that it's a Fatal 4-Way tag team match, but then it doesn't become a Fatal 4-Way anymore, because they're still using tag rules.
Right.
So now it's not a Fatal 4-Way. It's just a 4-team match. Now you could tag in anybody, apparently, because at one point teams were tagging in members of other teams, but this was for a shot at the #1 contender match. There's going to be a match like this on SmackDown, which we saw, then a match like this on Raw, and the winners of each of those are going to wrestle for a chance to face Judgment Day, Damian Priest, and Finn Balor for the tag team belts. This match is Pretty Deadly versus Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate versus Angel and Humberto from the Legado del Fantasma versus Joaquin and Cruz from the LWO. And it's Dunne and Bate, as they were calling them, the bruiserweights. Don't call them cruiserweights. Call them bruiserweights. The 2 bruiserweights who double team Kit Wilson. Tyler Bate gets the pin. This match goes 8 minutes, but it was a fast-moving 8 minutes. It wasn't too slow for my taste. Everybody got their stuff in. It looks like LDF and LWO, they're keeping up their hostilities. As really, outside of the finish there, the most noteworthy part of it was Zelina Vega at ringside taking away Elektra Gomez's interference there. So the 2 valets, who are also decent women wrestlers for LWO and LDF, got into it. This match and the chaos of it aside, and the oh my goodness, how are they going to put together a match? Right outcome for this? Do you like that they're trying to build up the tag team division again? And are Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate a good team to be in the finals of this #1 contender thing?
It's a shame, because he changed his name to Pete Dunne, and I was like, oh, cool, he's Pete Dunne. And on my notes say Butch, because I'm like,
that's okay.
I'm just so used to his old name. Right, Pete. I'm like, who the hell's Pete Dunne? Oh, right. That was his old name. He was Butch. Okay, now he's back to Pete Dunne.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Pete Dunne going over, and I liked the finger manipulation,
Of course.
in one of the spots. And I liked one of the spots by Pretty Deadly. They tried like the twin magic thing, or the twin switcheroo a little bit.
Yes.
But they both, one has bright blonde hair and one has black hair or brown hair. So like, they're not twins, And
they're different heights and.
Pretty Deadly, given their gimmick, I like them as a comedy act. I find them pretty funny.
I do too.
And, I thought this match was a lot better than I thought it would be, because once it started, I was like, oh no. I was like, oh no, this is what they're doing. So, let's call it good workers and bad booking. But all in all, they did all they could. And I mean, maybe that's Pete Dunne's career. That's Butch's career. They're
Mhm.
always putting him in weird stuff, and he's just making it work, right? So, um,
Better
one
than the
winners,
alternative, though, right? I really like the way you described that. This is maybe weird booking, but good work in the ring from the guys
yeah,
making it work. That's better than magnificent storyline booking and then guys in the ring not being able to do it. So
yeah,
maybe we saw the best that this was going to be.
exactly. It was pleasantly surprising because it wasn't bad. So,
Yeah, pretty entertaining. Did you like I think it was one of the LWO guys who wound up springing off of the middle rope onto the four heels on the floor. But he
yeah,
did it by getting some help from two other guys who were holding on to the middle rope as he was standing on it. And then as he would leap, they would pull up as on the rope as if they were giving him extra springing force onto that big double lariat onto four guys. That was fun, well timed. I don't want to see that every match.
yeah. And we also are big fans of WWE. So thanks for joining. And from my perspective, there's also a heart. There you go.
I like
Um,
the WWE too.
yeah, that's like old school where you would make the heart with your hands rather than an emoji. So
Yes.
uh, I'll have to say, I actually like this spot only, and I don't really like dives to the outside.
Uh-huh.
If I liked dives to the outside, I saw people in the crowd start to chant LWO, which is like they had people going like LWO, LWO. I'm like, all right, like they're the team. They're like the team. I'm pulling for the LWO. I kind of like them, so
Okay.
I was like happy to see the crowd reaction.
And they reacted without Rey Mysterio being there and without Santos Escobar being in the LWO and without Carlito being at ringside. So maybe the LWO just as an idea, as a faction is over.
Hmm.
In that hotbed of LWO. I mean, maybe it's because they're way down in the south in Birmingham. They're kind of closer to Mexico, so maybe they've got some real LWO roots there in Alabama. Who knows? But yeah, they're pushed as a baby face and they're getting a baby face reaction. So Zelina Vega probably got the pop of the night, right?
Yeah.
Or
Uh,
at least in that match when she attached, not pop of the night, but pop of that match.
oh yeah, yeah. No, when she attacked and did the high spot, it went over pretty well.
Yep.
Um, all right, so moving on.
One more match that I didn't understand. Was it just thrown out because of the interference? Because it was what, like 2-3 minutes of whatever. There were more people in this match than minutes of match time.
I was so confused. I wrote WTF question mark question mark question mark because I didn't understand what was happening.
Bobby
This
Lashley,
is
Angelo Dawkins, and Montez Ford.
this is carrying across his gimmick in a match. I was like, I
Right?
don't get it.
This is, oh man, it's a microcosm of carrying Cross's career for the last 18 months that we've been watching almost here.
Right.
As we go like, what is happening?
Like, what's going on?
So Bobby Lashley, Angelo Dawkins, and Montez Ford, who they're apparently trying to turn babyface, versus Final Testament. It's Karrion Kross, Occam, and Razor. With Scarlett is out there and Paul Ellering is out there. And apparently the match gets thrown out when Scarlett interferes as Bobby Lashley has Karrion Kross in the Hurt Locker, that full Nelson there. And then who runs out to take care of Scarlett? It's B-Fab, who we remember from a couple of months ago was talking to Bobby Lashley. It's like, when are they going to just pull the trigger here? And I think we may have even said it in the past, Don't Bury the Lead, that, if they're going to be going against Final Testament, who has a valet, maybe this is when B-Fab finally gets into this faction with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. And yeah, we saw it tonight. B-Fab's there. They found something for her to do.
Yeah. Well, BFAB, yes, she's got a job. So
All right.
she's I think she never, I mean, like that they pretty much did what they had with, they broke up that group and they're gonna try them in different spots, which is the best bet. Top
Mm-hmm.
Dolla's out. And then you know,
Or Ashante. They had him in one match, I think.
yeah, Ashante maybe could be a jobber or hang around and hopefully maybe goes down to NXT or something. And
Hmm.
then, interestingly, I would say, interestingly enough, there was another person in that tandem there who's in AEW right now, and he's really, really doing well.
Who is
Boy,
that? Drop the name on us. Do you remember who it is?
man, I'm completely blanking. Oh, Swerve Strickland. So Swerve Strickland is really big in AEW right now, and he's
He
getting
was in the whatever they called him, Hit Row.
yeah, he was in Hit Row.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
So he like dodged that bullet. He got like released by WWE, picked up by AEW, and just really reinvented himself. And he's one of the hottest. I know I forgot his name, but he's one of the hottest wrestlers I'd say right now in pro wrestling for sure.
Well, yeah. See, I've heard of Swerve Strickland. And I don't watch AEW. I just see clips and news briefs here and there. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
but look at
Oh wow, WWE like let go of maybe the most talented guy in that old Hit Row faction.
yeah, they let him walk, and he was in NXT, and then I think he just kind of has a knack for like the creative control of I don't know. He's just got a vibe to him when he comes out. He
Okay.
kind of reminds me a little bit of Bret Hart. Remember when Bret Hart had like the leather jacket and like he just sort of fit that time and that era? He kind of fits 2023, what would be like a cool guy in 2023. Like Bret Hart kind of had the leather jacket and like the early 90s grunt, not really grungy, but like kind of had that feel that like, okay, this dude's pretty cool. And whereas also, I just feel like he just sort of fit. I mean, that's Mission Impossible, become cool, right? Yeah.
All right, I like that. So we've made the most of whatever this almost match was.
And then we have another comment. They're coming in from the chat.
Cody Rhodes basically told you he's choosing Seth Rollins. Yes. While he gives The Rock his opportunity, Roman Reigns. He basically handed his match to The Rock. Yeah, in a sense. In a sense, he did that. And Johnny, tell us, did you think it worked? Because we went through this in the lead here on Don't Bury the Lead. Do you think this worked? Do you think Cody did it well? Do you like seeing The Rock versus Roman here?
Yeah.
I think they did it pretty well there.
Well, ultimately, Dom, I'll tell you what. This has been a pretty good wrap up of SmackDown so far. Anything we missed?
Braun Breaker. He mulled
Right.
signing with Raw or SmackDown. They had him backstage with Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis is giving him the SmackDown contract. That's when Adam Pearce walks over and says, you might want to hold off signing that until you come to Raw on Monday. Mm-hmm. And Braun Breaker says to Nick, thank you, I'm going to hold on to this, and walks out. And then Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis get into a little fight because I guess they're really leaning into this rivalry between the two brands, and they want the GMs to embody that. So I think so. I think that's good. And then we see Jade Cargill walk in. Mm-hmm. And we don't know which brand she has signed with, but she had a big thing, like we mentioned Tiffany Stratton, who we saw tonight, and like Braun Breaker, who we saw tonight. There were some newcomers to the main roster of WWE who looked really good at the Royal Rumble. And so we got to see 3 more of them tonight. I like it.
Right. And
I think it makes Cody look not look good. And you're a huge Cody fan. All right, Johnny Autism. I was going to save this for the Italian goodbye and just pepper John with it. But I think I'm going to have to ask you now, since I like you and I appreciate that you're here in the chat. This is 2 WrestleManias in a row where it looks like Cody's being overshadowed. Last WrestleMania, the build up to WrestleMania, it was lots of people saying Sami Zayn should be in that spot instead. And the WWE having to really work to have people not resent Cody Rhodes being in that WrestleMania title picture because Sami Zayn was just so hot. Now, they managed to do it so that by the time we got to WrestleMania, Cody was out of any of that audience tension that existed. Now, it looks like, rumors broke weeks ago that The Rock wanted to have a match with Roman Reigns. He's going on First Take with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN. He's there with Shannon Sharp. We've covered this here on Don't Bury the Lead. He's talking about how great it would be to have a match with Roman Reigns, how great it would be to be at WrestleMania. And now people are talking about that. And it looks like that this is 2 years in a row. Yet last year was kind of accidental because I don't think WWE Creative knew that Sami Zayn would blow up that much and be that over. But this year, it looks intentional. It looks like they've been planning this thing to get The Rock to WrestleMania to face Roman Reigns for a while now. And so this whole thing with Cody Rhodes, like, can Cody finish his story? They're almost putting Cody in a bad spot. Now, you say you're a huge Cody fan. And great. That's good to hear from you. Do you think they're putting Cody Rhodes in a tough spot again? And if you think that, do you think Cody took a good step tonight to getting out of that really awkward tension that's not his fault at all, and seeming to go after Seth Rollins and the World Heavyweight Championship? So that's something to mull over there. John is at the board right now, so he's our on-air producer for Don't Bury the Lead. So he'll have to come back and bring up any of your answers. But anybody else in the chat who wants to answer that as well, please drop your comment in the chat there. Anything we've been talking tonight, especially the lead, which has to do with The Rock having a stare down and what has been implied as a match with Roman Reigns coming up at WrestleMania. Drop that in the chat. If you're watching us on the recording in our archive at YouTube, hey, drop it in the comments. If you're watching live on a platform other than YouTube, thank you very much for finding us. We are on Twitch live streaming. We are on Facebook live streaming. I think we're also on Twitter live streaming. So if you're finding us from any of those platforms, thank you very much. We are Don't Bury the Lead. John is the guy who had the big idea for the show, and well, I'm just a guy who likes to talk a lot. So we're here, a couple of buddies talking pro wrestling. Find us on YouTube, though. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That's not only the live streams, but it's all our other content. John's going to make us some of those 60-second and under shorts out of this big live stream that we do. You'll also see edited clips during the week where we take smaller chunks of what we've been talking about. Find us on YouTube. John, I've been talking with Johnny Autism there, who threw in that great chat comment about Cody. And I've been talking about, is this 2 years in a row that Cody is in an awkward position?
Yeah, totally valid point. And yes, absolutely. I totally think it's something weird where they're like, it could be Cody or, it could be somebody else, some other shiny object.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see with The Rock. But let's move it forward here. So,
well, while our commenters share our thoughts with us, I think is it drive time?
Tom, I think it is drive time.
It's time for the thumb drive. Folks, this is where John and we try to distill everything we've watched on this program into a simple thumbs up or a thumbs down. No thumbs in the middle. There are no ties here. You got to make a decision. Thumbs up or thumbs down. There are no letter grades. There are no number grades. There are no star ratings. You're taking this course. Pass, fail.
Listen, Tom, we're not Dave Meltzer. We don't give out star ratings. We just give the show a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And that's that. So maybe put your thumb up. Build the anticipation here as we decide what this SmackDown. Does it get a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Ready? 3, 2, 1. Whoa.
All right.
I'm going thumbs down. Tom, why'd you go thumbs up?
I went thumbs up because coming off of Royal Rumble, I figured that the announcements would be big stories, and they were, and I thought they were handled well. Were they wrestling matches? No. But they are big deals, and I thought they were done just masterfully by Bailey, very well by that closing segment as well that wound up being the main event segment. I also feel like in the past, I've given SmackDown's thumbs up when it looked to me like not only was the work in the ring downplayed and we didn't get a really good match, but also that it looked like the rest of the show wasn't going anywhere. Either everything was a placeholder, or we've seen it before, or it just made you feel like I didn't need to watch this show. Tonight, I did not get that feeling. I know we didn't get a lot of great wrestling, but I felt like there was something about watching this show that was interest holding enough. So I liked it. No, there was no, fantastic matches we had gotten, especially the first 2 or 3 SmackDowns of 2024. But for what it was, I was entertained, and I get why they did what they did, and I think they did it well.
So I usually try to err on the side of and I think we both do. We generally just will give a thumbs up for a pretty positive show, and it takes a lot to get a thumbs down.
Mm-hmm.
This show sucked. I was so bored.
Yes, rip it.
I mean, if I'm not going to nearly do it as good as like Jim Cornette, who tears wrestling shows apart. But for me, I was just watching it, and between the AOP Bobby Lashley thing that was like super confusing, the Fatal 4-Way tag match, you got Logan Paul on the mic just stinking it up and getting wanted out of the building. I mean, I know The Rock was there, and I know that's a really big, impactful moment, and that would normally give me the thumbs up, but I've seen him now like twice, so it's not like the craziest thing in the world. I'm usually just a big fan of good TV matches, and we didn't get any of that tonight. So I think the show was pretty bad. And I know The Rock came, and they're setting up storyline, but I don't know. I feel like we have a lot of time before WrestleMania, and I want to get some excitement heading into it, and not just throw away storyline segments. So there is my boiling hot take of why I gave it a thumbs down. But I
like that hot take. I'm going to give you a thumbs up for your hot take, thumbs down in the show.
Well, that's the thumb drive. We'll go 50-50 split tonight.
Tell us in the comments, what did you think? Was it a thumbs up? Was it a thumbs down?
Yeah. Let's hear from you guys if you watched SmackDown tonight. Chances are, if you're watching this show, you're likely probably just checking in to see what happened. But if you saw it tonight, let us know. And we can move on to the next segment here, I think,
Mm-hmm. Is it time? It's a little warm here. Did someone turn the heat on?
Is my radiator going up? What's happening here?
Oh my goodness. It's cheap. It's heat.
It's time for our next segment, Cheap Heat. Cheap Heat, where we will go ahead and talk about WWE, AEW, and other wrestling trending topics. And basically what we're going to do is talk about trending topics throughout the wrestling industry. And we usually will take little snippets of this and make them into shorter form videos on YouTube. That's really what we've done in the last maybe 6 or 7 months, and it's done pretty well. We had a video over 1,000 views about Stephanie McMahon with the cheap heat from Vince McMahon, of course. That's kind of gone off. But without further ado, let's start with the cheap heat here. So, Dom, I'm going to let you share your screen.
There we go. We're going to keep it in WWE for a while. Update on WWE main roster status for Braun Breaker. Apparently, this is more Vince McMahon fallout here. Vince McMahon, if you heard about him being sort of pressured to resign as he did under the details of this sexual assault lawsuit coming out, apparently Brock Lesnar's name was in that lawsuit somewhere. So Brock Lesnar was removed from the Royal Rumble match. And they basically put Braun Breaker into this. So Braun Breaker wound up doing a lot of what was supposed to be Brock Lesnar's spots. Here it is here. This comes to us from comingsoon.net. Notably, he filled in for Brock Lesnar in the match as Lesnar was pulled from the event. Now, Breaker did a lot of good stuff in here. They even had him have a showdown with confrontation with Intercontinental Champion Gunther, sparking conversations across the wrestling world. And this is a big deal because this was really supposed to be Gunther and Brock Lesnar building for this. This was supposed to be Brock Lesnar versus Gunther. That has been scrapped. WWE is looking for alternative options for Gunther's opponent at WrestleMania 40. John, since Braun Breaker performed so admirably in doing basically all of the Brock Lesnar spots in the Royal Rumble, and he seems to be ready. He has the look, he has the in-ring ability. They gave him a little TV time tonight on SmackDown. They're apparently going to have some time for him on Raw in a couple of days here. Why not just build Braun Breaker versus Gunther for WrestleMania?
Yeah, 100%. Braun Breaker is really exciting, and I hope he goes to SmackDown because just a little bit I've seen, I'm like, yep, okay, Rick Steiner and kind of acts like Scott Steiner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'll take that all day. So I've heard pretty good stuff about him. I don't watch NXT, but you can only kind of like read reviews or read people that you kind of trust, I guess, essentially. And it sounds like he's pretty damn good. So hopefully Braun Breaker ends up on SmackDown so we can continue to talk about him. And what
I think he's going to Raw, though. I think they're going to build him and Gunther.
Oh, okay. Well,
would you want to see that? I mean, the disappointment of not seeing him on SmackDown weekly aside, since you and I basically just watch SmackDown as far as the WWE products go. Disappointment aside from there, do you think he, in very little time here, can be built into a credible threat to Gunther in basically 2 months?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
They've been feeding Gunther a lot of different people, and maybe there's this idea that he's different than the guys that normally get fed to Gunther, which are just like, Gunther wrestles a lot of good jobbers, right? Like good wrestlers that are jobbers that are usually typically lose, and they put on a good fight against Gunther, and you hope that they wins the belt, and he just is the heel that just keeps winning, right? So,
Braun, he's been on Raw. They've done that with The Miz recently. Chad Gable had a good program with Gunther. So he's done some good programs with people, but has come out on top. Not knowing Braun Breaker's in-ring abilities in a one-on-one situation, he's not going to look bad in there with Gunther, is he? I mean, Gunther can make people look good. We've seen enough of Gunther to know that he can coax a match of the person's year out of them, right?
I think either me or you can go in the ring with Gunther and get like a 4-star match.
Here we go.
He's really like, he's the real deal. And if you're going to talk about like who's the best in-ring wrestler in the world today, we're talking WWE, AEW, New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a strong argument that it's Gunther.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. I like him too. Both of those articles came to us from comingsoon.net. Go visit them online to read the rest of these articles if you'd like. We talked about Perth, Australia, and about Elimination Chamber coming up there, and we've previously covered that Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio were down there for a media tour. They did another media tour in January. It was Grayson Waller and LA Knight. What a pairing here. I got to tell you, LA Knight and Grayson Waller, I get this buddy cop movie vibe out of them. Like they don't totally get along. Like Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, they kind of get along and they're both brats. LA Knight and Grayson Waller, it's, being in there with LA Knight, Grayson Waller has to get rid of some of the cartoonish goofiness and just let his comedic timing go away. Like here they are on National Rugby League Boom Rookies podcast, where they both just kind of killed it. This is in the Sydney area. I mean, LA Knight is, LA Knight is gold, but I heard a lot of people say they were impressed by Grayson Waller's ability to not be a goofy guy.
Yeah.
And to just be more of just, kind of just a guy with a sharp wit and hang in there. And of course, this is Australia. So, Grayson Waller's the star of the show in a sense, but they've got LA Knight down there. What do you think of this pairing? One of them's the hottest babyface maybe they have. And the other one is this kind of mid to bottom card, almost comedy heel. Here they are on the Amin show, which is a radio broadcast there. They're in the studio here. What do you think of this pairing? And does this have any future here? Is maybe Grayson Waller going to ditch the comedy and become? I read some people writing in the comments here that you can really see that Grayson Waller could be a good, cool baby face if he made that turn.
Yeah,
that his comedic timing is there. That he's got a quick wit, he's sharp. He's got the personality, he's got the look. He could be a baby face if they ever went in that direction. I just thought this was a fun combination that LA Knight and Grayson Waller are like, stuck in Australia for a few days, completely sleep deprived because it's halfway around the world, and trying to do radio interviews to pump up Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Pretending that they like each other.
Yeah, I think and they're probably breaking character a little bit with Grayson Waller. But yeah, it does feel like a guy who they're making kind of like be goofy because he's from Australia. Like, I might, like stuff like
yeah.
Like they think he's the crocodile hunter or something like that. And
he's Crocodile Dundee, or he's Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin, yeah. He's making them do, oh crikey, stuff like that, make him real goofy. But ultimately, if he does, you could see he knows how to talk. So maybe he just needs to have a better character, so then he can take the talking skills in that direction, right? Okay. Maybe he's just in a character that doesn't make any sense for who the guy is. Whereas maybe a more relaxed, cool baby face, might be it, Something like a Dolph Ziggler,
Okay, now going by his name, Nick Nemeth in TNA. Yeah, okay. Yeah. You brought up that obviously they're not totally in character here because these guys they kind of don't like each other. I mean, LA Knight doesn't like anybody.
Right.
His WWE character, he doesn't like anybody. Grayson Waller likes other smarmy heels. It's not like he's hanging out with Logan Paul on the show. So these two guys did have to put on, but you could see even the body posture here. Like LA Knight's kind of giving it to him a little in these interviews.
Mm.
And Grayson's trying to like hang with him a bit. So they're having some fun. So I think they're doing a good job of promoting Elimination Chamber. I just thought this was good for each guy. It shows the range of each guy a little bit. So this was fun. We saw one clip earlier on a Don't Bury the Lead where they were on a morning show and some cameraman was challenging, wanted to take a finisher or something from Grayson Waller, and Grayson Waller had to jump up and like just get in the guy's face. You're like, who's this cameraman that they're that's trying to challenge me here? And while LA Knight is just sitting on the couch going, I can't believe I got dragged into this. So this was fun. If you want to go, these are on YouTube. The Amin Show and the NRL Boom Rookies podcast, which is affiliated with ESPN, as you can see there. Search for LA Knight and Grayson Waller each time. Fun interviews, fun stuff. Just thought I'd throw that out there since it is the road to Elimination Chamber. So let's talk beyond WWE. How about AEW? Adam Copeland on some of his acting that he's doing, and also what makes Christian Cage the best villain in wrestling. This is an interesting spot for Adam Copeland to be in, the former Edge in the WWE, because they want to talk to him about stuff outside of wrestling, and then he has to not be totally in wrestling character, because like he's here talking about Christian, who he's got a rivalry with in AEW, but they're best of friends since when they were growing up, and he's praising him here. You're our AEW expert, John. Is Christian killing it as a villain?
Absolutely.
Is he perhaps the best villain in wrestling?
Absolutely.
Great, good. I like to hear that.
Without question. Maybe Roman Reigns holds a candle to him because of how far he's come, and he's unbeatable. But Roman is like his own special thing. But as far as a heel, yeah, Christian's done an excellent job. So I don't know if you know anything about his gimmick, but he basically just talks to guys and how their father's dead. and I'll be your father now that your father's dead. And I saw with Jungle Boy, he's like, oh, Jungle Boy, we all know your father's dead. And that's well, this is the way you act like this. And then he'll say something along the lines of oh, and I see your mother's really smitten for me too. And just saying horrible things you should never say. And the crowd freaks out every time he says it, because it's unbelievable that he's saying it. Another thing though is when I saw him in Philadelphia during AEW Dynamite, this is when the Philadelphia Phillies lost to the Diamondbacks.
Okay.
So it was 2 days after. I'm there with my buddy Steve LaCastro and his wife and my wife, and we're just looking forward to going to the show, not thinking about baseball because we're crushing the series. And and then Christian Cage has the belt up, and he's like, "Look at this belt, Philadelphia. This is something you'll never get the opportunity to look at now that your Philadelphia Phillies have been eliminated from the playoffs." And we're like, "No." We're like, no.
So you're saying Christian went right for the cheap heat?
He went right for the cheap heat, and it worked so well. I was like, oh, because that's specific. It's not something that would work all the time. You can't just say it to any team. But specifically then, 2 days after being knocked out of the World Series playoffs there, yeah, it was still pretty fresh from my brain,
Somewhere along the way, that got lost about guys wanting to be good at being heels, effective at being heels. Heels became cooler than the baby face. That's not how it should be. And that's not how Christian, sees it either.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the man wears a cutoff turtleneck. There's nothing cool about what he's doing. He's fully committed to it. He's a Bond villain and loving it. It's fun to be involved with. So very good there. So even though Adam Copeland is kind of breaking kayfabe there on these interviews, this is with SI.com, SportsIllustrated.com, the Wrestling on Fan Nation here. That's where this article comes from. So even though he's kind of breaking kayfabe, we kind of agree with him, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is good stuff. Speaking of perhaps breaking kayfabe, Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns mugging as he walks through the crowd with a fan. This is from A Kenny for your thoughts on Twitter X there. I'm not Jay Uso, I promise yeet. So maybe a little heel Twitter account here. But it's Roman Reigns walking with a fan through the crowd to get to the luxury box there for the end of the Royal Rumble. Roman had wrestled earlier in the night. The fan there has a wristband. There was some reporting that maybe this was a Make-A-Wish kid. That I don't know was verified. It could have been just anybody. But if this was a Make-A-Wish kid, Roman Reigns kind of breaking kayfabe here.
Well, maybe it wasn't meant to be publicized, right? This feels or I guess there are people there with cameras, so.
How could it not be publicized? They're at a PLE and everybody's got a camera these days on their phone.
It's a good point. It's not supposed to be part of the storyline. But yeah, I guess it's a little bit breaking kayfabe, but I am not a heartless monster, so there's no way I'm going to critique Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Sure.
I think that's where you can. there's situations where you should break kayfabe, right? And this is one of them.
Now, Roman's trying to keep up the heel persona. They say he's mean mugging as he walks through the crowd. And I
Yeah.
think he was. I think this kind of prompts the question. If this was someone who requested this from maybe Make-A-Wish or a similar organization, how about that person being a hardcore fan and wanting to hang out with a heel?
And just because the kid's Make-A-Wish doesn't mean he's not a bad person. He could just be a heel himself, you know, just because
He might be a heel himself, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
the cheapest of heatists. Speculating that maybe the Make-A-Wish people are heels themselves.
No,
Wow.
they found one of the bad kids, and they're like, "Listen, you ain't seeing Cena. You're too bad. You got to go see Roman." Yeah.
I love it. We have gone meta cheap heat here. We are dumping on potentially sick kids.
I, if he's good at it and he's a good heel, then kudos to him.
Hey, sign him up. The world needs effective heels, right?
Right. Like Edge was talking about in the last, or Adam Copeland was talking about in our last segment here.
Absolutely. Now, here's something I don't know if it's heel or what's going on. You found this one. This comes to us from WrestleZone. Ricky Starks meets with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I do not know who Gypsy Rose Blanchard is. Apparently, you said she has millions of Instagram followers. And perhaps she has a history of some real life troubles.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
She is kind of I don't want to call her she's a bit of a reality TV star freak show person. Because they basically made a show about, like, she murdered her mother, and they did a big show about it. And it sounds like she was really in a really precarious situation when she did it. I mean, I'm not defending anyone that murders their mother, but it sounds like she had like a pretty horrible upbringing from her mother.
Okay.
So she has, spent some time in prison for it. They did some TV shows about her, and now she's got like she has 8 million followers on Instagram because the TV show's about her. And I think there's people pulling for her, which is also good. Kind of like, if she could find some way to live the rest of her life. And from what I've seen too, she appears to have some pretty good PR people behind her because people have really taken to her coming out of jail. So either she has studied PR, like within her during her sentence and is a good imagery of herself. But anyways, I just thought this was very bizarre. And I was like, we should talk about this.
How about Ricky Starks being the one half of the AEW tag champs there to go meet Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Is this a good career move for Ricky Starks?
I could not tell if, so Ricky Starks shared the picture. Wow, it wasn't even like she shared the picture with Ricky Starks. Is this a good career move? Well, he's a heel, so, he's hanging out with a murderer.
He can do it as a heel, right? If he's babyface, maybe he can't do this.
Yeah. And maybe it gets more attention to AEW because this person has 8 million Instagram followers in 2 months, and she surpassed both Triple H and Roman Reigns in Instagram followers. So,
all right,
this person is becoming wildly popular, and I wanted to talk about her because I want to make a video about her because I feel like it'll get a lot of views. Because I'm like, who is this person? Gypsy Rose Blanchard? I thought it was like Tully's daughter or something. Tully Blanchard's daughter.
That's what I thought when I heard the last name, because I know he's got at least one daughter or niece who is wrestling. Is it Tess Blanchard?
Yeah, Tess Blanchard.
Okay, so yes, you sent this to me, and I'm like, okay, so he's meeting a Blanchard wrestler, and then you're like, no, she killed someone.
No, she's a murderer.
Like the way creative sometimes murders people's careers. No, she actually killed someone and went to prison. Oh.
Right. She didn't get murdered by her booking. She murdered someone.
Okay. Very good. So now we're just doing cheap heat now as well. Very good. It's fun. It's a show. Please don't murder us. If you're watching live, did you know who Gypsy Rose Blanchard was? I did not. Tell us if you knew who she was. Do you think this is neat? Have you seen any other shows she's been involved in? Tell us in the comments as well if you're watching us on a recording here. Ricky Starks meets Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Although from what you're saying, John, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, she might be very popular. Is Ricky Starks trying to turn babyface here?
I believe that is part of the heel thing. She's gonna hang out with he's gonna hang out with a murderer. I don't think she's necessarily seen as a good person. It might be a little bit like when OJ got out of prison. He's just trying to get back to his life and was just like, okay, I'm a bad person, but let me just live my life.
Okay, very good. How about we'll stay in the AEW realm, but out of the ring? This comes to us from Deadline. Wrapping up filming on a Jewish summer camp comedy called The Floaters, and look who's part of it. Recent inductee into the National Jewish Hall of Fame, which we have covered here on Don't Bury the Lead, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. It's MJF. He's apparently not waiting for his wrestling career to be winding down or over before he explores acting. He's doing pretty well here. What say you about MJF? He's currently, the storyline is that he's injured. He real life probably is recovering from a lot of stuff here. But what say you about this MJF exploring work in entertainment outside of wrestling, even though he's in his 20s and in the prime of his wrestling career?
It's a win-win for AEW and MJF because it can build that model, and I believe he'd be a good actor. So that would build that model that they have with The Rock right now and Randy Orton, where if somebody does movies, he's going to get outside exposure to people that don't watch pro wrestling and be like, oh, no, that's that wrestling guy. And then they'll be like, oh, I like that movie. And then suddenly, bam, they could potentially even then like MJF when he's wrestling. So I think it's a win-win, and I think it's an interesting movie that he's doing. He probably would be good in a Jewish comedy.
How about the way Deadline is describing him? They mentioned wrestler, but they didn't say AEW. They mentioned his credit for the Iron Claw. So they're treating him as a movie actor.
Yeah, they mentioned that he was in the Iron Claw and he's an actor, right?
So this is good stuff here. I saw this and thought it was interesting. I mean, they're a formative part of our own childhoods. Jewish summer camp is a place where campers are free to be themselves and forge lifelong bonds. The Floaters captures the humor and heart of that experience that will widely resonate with audiences. So it looks like maybe a fun family comedy that he's doing. This is, his character in AEW for a while was a rather dark heel. This looks like a more lighthearted babyface role for MJF in this movie. I like it.
Maybe he's like the bully counselor. He'd be like perfect,
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, he's a counselor that's a real jerk.
Maybe he's the summer camp heel.
Yes.
Oh, I wonder if he gets his comeuppance at the end then.
Right.
I like it. More wrestlers who have stuff going on outside of wrestling. Rebecca Quinn, you know her. She's Becky Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
She's written an autobiography. Becky Lynch, the man. Not your average girl. Mm-hmm. She's apparently doing a book tour, kind of a bookending WrestleMania here.
Nice.
Mostly around the Northeast before WrestleMania. She'll be in Philadelphia a few days before WrestleMania there at April 2nd. And then I guess when they make their way out to California, she's got one more book date out in Los Angeles scheduled for the week after WrestleMania. So this is fun. Did you know that Becky Lynch was into writing books? I mean, she's not a novelist or anything, but you're writing an autobiography. Sometimes that's more difficult. Did you know that she was into this kind of stuff and was trying to be an author here?
I have heard of this. Pretty interesting that she scored 0 points in Jeopardy. Celebrity Jeopardy, albeit. So I hope our vocabulary is up to snuff here, or somebody's at least ghostwriting it. I don't know. Do you think she just she goes to ChatGPT and says, "Hey, write me a book," and then that's what it is?
I'm not sure. I will say Becky Lynch is quite a promo on the mic.
Yeah,
Maybe that translates to the written word. I'm not sure.
I'm just teasing. I'm sure the book's fine. I just
A
wanted.
lot of these people do have ghostwriters. Like they tell their story, but then there's someone else who does the finer points of the craft of the written word there.
I just wanted to sneak in making fun of Becky Lynch about the Jeopardy score.
About the Jeopardy, which we have done before. Not gonna lie, it's Cheap Heat. This is not the first time we have brought up that morsel there. But hey, if you're a reader, tell us in the chat. Do you like these wrestling? And I imagine this is going to be some sort of a tell-all, even though she's still an active wrestler. I can't believe that this is going to be however many pages of kayfabe, because that seems like it would be boring. But like Mick Foley's written a book.
Yeah,
That's maybe the most famous of these wrestler biographies. Maybe this is in that mold. If you are a Becky Lynch fan, tell us, are you interested in a book about what she's gone through to get to this point in her career? I'm not sure that I am, but for those who are into that I'm not much of a biography person anyway, but for those who are into this genre, all best to Rebecca Quinn writing about her career in wrestling and what got her at this point. I like it.
We're pulling for her for sure. She's a good wrestler, so
we're pulling for her, yeah. That's all I got for Cheap Heat. Do you have anything else you wanted to share, John?
No, I only sent you the one article about the murderer and wanted to talk about her, and let's see if we can get some cheap heat out of that. But we got a ton of cheap heat here. Wow. We were loaded up with cheap heat in the beginning of the show too, with Roman Reigns and The Rock. But this is going to take us into our next segment here, Dom. So, it seems like it's supposed to be the end of the show. We should just kind of end abruptly. But we don't do that here at Dope.
No, we don't.
We're going to take it into the next segment here. And that segment is the Italian Goodbye. And let me tell you something about this segment. This is usually an outro for a show. And most people would say, okay, this is the end of the show. Nice, thanks for coming, blah, 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 blah. But we just hang around for a little bit. We start saying goodbye to each other. But and then we start kind of picking up a conversation. Then we start saying bye again. And it's like, oh, what about this? And we'll go on and on and on and on and on until we want.
And if there's people still watching and you want to jump in here to the Italian Goodbye, tell us, is there anything we missed from tonight's show that you wanted to talk about from SmackDown? Or is there any cheap heat you heard over the past week that you want to throw out to us here? I had one that I already teased from early in the show, and I went through it a little with one of our live chatters here. Cody Rhodes. Last year, they wanted his story to be so great for WrestleMania, and he got overshadowed by Sami Zayn.
Mm-hmm.
This year, a little bit before Royal Rumble, they start leaking that The Rock wants to have a WrestleMania match with Roman Reigns. This is 2 years in a row that Cody's in this awkward position of creative having to push him as the top babyface, and then something happening where the crowd is behind somebody else. This time they seem to have planned it, or at least pivoted very well. Last year was out of people's control. Sammy just got so organically over with the crowd. But it's almost a deja vu with Cody, isn't it?
Oh, it's got deja vu vibes. And I'm glad that they're at least entertaining the idea of The Rock wrestling against Roman Reigns. But I feel like that's going to make people angry. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Although people were cheering like crazy for The Rock tonight.
Yes.
There's got to be a way we can figure this out where here's what I would guess if I'm really a betting man. What would have been amazing is if The Rock he went out there, and if Cody goes after the regular title, and The Rock wrestles Seth Rollins for that other title. That's what I thought would be really cool.
So you want The Rock going after Seth Rollins in the World Heavyweight Championship?
Yeah. So, like, because you see how Cody and him were like, yeah, cool. Like, they made cool with each other. So maybe they agreed, like, I'll go get that other title from that chump. And then you can get Cody. And then if Cody beats him, right, for the title, then The Rock can beat him in, like, SummerSlam or something, you know? And then, I don't know.
You want all the gold on The Rock here. You're 100% behind The Rock's return. You want belts on him.
I want belts on him, baby. Belts.
Wow. So this is not going to be the John Cena return that we saw last year.
Oh yeah,
where Cena came back to do a few matches, a few SmackDowns,
I want
and
The Rock
people
to come
over.
back like Superman. I want Rock coming back like Superman. Like, I want him with the attitude of Hulk Hogan. Like, that's not gonna work for me, pal. You know, when like anytime he would book to lose, oh no, he don't lose. You know, like
It doesn't work for me, brother.
Doesn't work for me, brother. That's I said, pal. It should have been. Doesn't work for me, brother. One other thing I wanted to point out: the Amen Show. Who is this guy? He's got LA Knight on his show. He's got
down in Australia.
Yeah, he's got 289 subscribers. He's like it's way smaller than us. It's amazing.
He's apparently on terrestrial radio down there in Sydney area in Australia. So that's why he was there. They were doing live radio on that program. So maybe they just haven't gotten into the streaming video promotions game of it there. But
okay, so he does regular radio, and they're still like doing YouTube, but they suck at YouTube because it's not their thing.
They're apparently they just haven't gotten the hang of YouTube yet.
That's funny.
We could give them a few pointers. We're over 289 subscribers, aren't we?
We're well over 289. We're at 430 some right now.
There we go.
We're almost doubling you up, boy. But yeah, we can give them Almond Show. If you're watching, or if you ever see this, we'll give you some pointers. Cool. So
I saw that too. I guess I just think that all these things are such huge shows. I saw the 289, and my mind just might have put. Let me see. I'm going to bring it up again. Oh my goodness! It is 289 subscribers.
Yeah.
See, my mind just put a K there when I saw 289. I'm like, oh, it must be 289,000.
289K. Yeah.
No, it's 289 subscribers. Now the clip itself has over 9,000 views.
I'll tell you what. I might start messaging these some of these wrestlers and ask one of them if they want to come on. If this guy could do it with 289, we're in Philadelphia. We got 500. Yeah, come on the show.
We could do it. We could do Grayson Waller. Apparently, it was on the same show that Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio were on weeks earlier, something called the West Sport, which sounds like it's more Perth-based.
Gotcha. I'll tell you what, we could do it, and we'll even tell. We're not going to ask you anything about Vince. We're not gonna badger you about Vince or what you think of your booking. We'll be nice.
We'll let you stay in kayfabe, for crying out loud.
Yeah. We'll be a regular old Chris Van Vliet, vanilla as hell, and just asking nice questions and saying how great you are.
Maybe you do some cheap pops instead of cheap heat. Who knows?
Right. Cheap pops. Well, the whole show would be cheap heat because he would be interviewed by me. So, or by us, I should say, rather. Me and you would be interviewed.
We'd be doing the Chris Farley from Saturday Night Live, where he would interview famous people and just be all tongue-tied and not be able what to do. Remember when you were in WrestleMania and you beat that guy? It was cool. It was awesome.
Right.
Oh boy. So yeah, so Hey, I'm with Sportskeeda though. I want to see Roman Reigns versus The Rock, but I don't know if I want the belt involved. That's just me.
I'll tell you what.
And I think, and I'm gonna turn this into something for AEW. So here we're really Italian goodbye here. AEW, and they may be breaking it this coming Wednesday. AEW has done a great job of having Sting in big matches that are nowhere near a title belt.
Yeah.
Like Sting is big enough where him being involved in a program is a huge deal. The crowd loves it.
Huh.
People watch on TV or they watch on pay-per-views, even though there's no belt involved. And so I think of The Rock in that mode. I don't think a belt needs to be involved for The Rock's return to WrestleMania to be a huge deal and to be a big number and to be worthy of main eventing WrestleMania.
One thing about The Rock, he is older, and he hasn't wrestled in several years, right?
The Rock's career started before Cena's, right? Rock is mid to late 90s.
Uh-huh.
And Cena was early 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cena was after the Monday Night Wars. Whereas The Rock was kind of in the middle of it.
Let's talk about.
Yeah, so the Rock is probably older. He's definitely older than Roman Reigns. He's the older cousin here in the extended family of the Anawais.
He's 51. So there's 51-year-olds that can wrestle right now.
Adam Copeland is 50?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's good.
His contemporary Billy Gunn is also wrestling in AEW, right?
Yes.
He's got to be about that age, and Billy Gunn can still work, right?
Yeah. He's been he's in a 3-man tag, and
Yes.
they do like 3-man tag titles there, and he's one of the champs.
Okay, very good.
It's
Now, Chris Jericho is slowed down in his 50s, but that's just because of where he was when he wrestled in his prime.
Yeah. I've always liked his work. Maybe the last year or so is kind of the last year or two, maybe he's slowed down a little bit, but I've always liked his stuff.
Okay.
I thought when he left AEW or WWE and was in New Japan, he was awesome, though.
Okay.
There's Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes, believe it or not, is in pretty good shape and has put on really good matches for AEW. And he's
okay.
50,
So Dustin is still back over there.
yeah, and he's 54. If he could wrestle like Dustin Rhodes, or The Rock will be good. I just don't know. Like, I don't know if he's too,
Okay.
and he's all steroided up. Like, he's gonna be big and slow and unathletic.
Yeah, sometimes guys bulk up too much and it hurts their mobility, it hurts their balance, it hurts their agility, it hurts their cardiovascular training. They're gassed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of my favorite wrestlers are not the big jack guys. They're the guys who are great athletes and put together and obviously have some strength on them, but they're not overly jacked up. In fact, I think I heard Eric Bischoff say that one thing that benefited Hulk Hogan later in his career is that he dropped weight.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the 300-pound just bloated guy. And so he actually looked better and had better definition when he was down around 260, 270.
Folks, we're doing the Italian goodbye here. You got anything to say? Pop it in the chat. We're about to end the show, but we're really not about to end it because we're going to just keep talking. So if you want to hop in, let us know. What do you think of The Rock versus Cody Rhodes potentially? Or excuse me, The Rock versus Roman Reigns potentially? What do you think of that? The Rock coming back? Anything really. But
we're great at saying hello, but we're not so great at saying goodbye.
Yeah. We've got. I'm getting unprofessional. I'm eating food during the show, but
what are you snacking on there?
These things are called Drizzlicious. They're like little rice cakes with frosting on them. They're fantastic.
So it's completely defeating the purpose of rice cakes.
There you go. Yeah, that's about right. So you know, we have the show out there. I mean, we have a video right now. It had 1,500 views the last time I looked about Stephanie McMahon. We've got other videos that are out there that have like, I don't know, like this year started pretty good for us. We're somewhere between 500 and 2,000 for all of our videos as far as views are concerned. So go ahead and check our stuff out. We're on YouTube. That's where we're based out of. We go live on Twitter and Twitch and Facebook, but really our home base is YouTube, and we're up to 435 subscribers, so we're really close to 500. If you can find it in your heart, hit the subscribe button, and yeah, that's kind of all I have for tonight. How about you, Dom? Anything else?
You mentioned some of our videos in the archive. There's a great video we put out with the training footage of Jade Cargill at the Heart Dungeon with Natalya. We got to see a little bit of Jade Cargill during the Royal Rumble, and we were impressed with her. She obviously has the power game down. The question is whether she can do more of the grappling and the agility. And you'll get into the ring for 15, 20 minutes at some of these premium live events with the likes of Rhea Ripley, the likes of Io Sky, Bayley, Charlotte Flair when Charlotte Flair comes back from her knee injury, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair. You know, some of these top tier women wrestlers that they have, and be able to hang with them and not just be the person who's chiseled. You know, it's you don't want Jade Cargill to be the female version of the Ultimate Warrior.
Right.
You know, especially if she has the potential to be more like the other great. You and I have talked about it. We think the women's division in the WWE is in some ways better, especially at the top, than the men's division.
Right.
They have competitive matches. They're very athletic. They've done well building heat between the wrestlers. It's well done. They're excellent performers. So you know, the goal is for Jade to be able to fit into that.
Right.
Not to be ready for the indies, but to fit into that.
All right, Dom. I'll tell you what. I think it's time to hit the old dusty road here.
It's time for you to finish off all that health food.
My name is John Zadell, joined by Dom Scarcella. Guys, thanks so much for coming out. We really appreciate it. We're here every Friday night after the bell. We'll have some short videos coming up this week, you know, and really appreciate your time tonight, and have a great rest of your evening. All right, take it easy.
Got a bunch of thumbs up there from James.